as you are listening to chapter 28 today, you might think that you would need this page in your spiral journal to summarize. Well, we will summarize at the end of the chapter, but you are going to be most responsible for making a connection between what we listened to in The Legend of King Arthur and what was happening in Anne of Green Gables. So I reminded you, or I mentioned it'd be a good idea to bend back the corner of this page where we had our first connection with nonfiction text, having talked about the, there we go, the medicine label on Ipecac. So that was a while ago. You want this page, you'll also want to be able to write down the summary at the end, but we're most going to focus, and your independent part will need to be making a connection between this legend now. And legends, believe it or not, are considered nonfiction text. That's where they get filed in libraries, even though it's really obvious that the magic in them makes them fantasies. Because they are based so far in history, they actually get filed in libraries in nonfiction, which is always blows my mind. What you will need to do as we listen to chapter 27 of Anne of Green Gables, you will need to use what you know about the characters in the legend of Sir Lancelot and Elaine. Elaine is also known as the Lily Maid because when she floated down to Camelot, she had lilies in her hands. You will need to look specifically for the characters, see if any part of the beginning of Elaine's story shows up in Anne of Green Gables. Does anything in the middle of the Lancelot and Elaine's story show up in Anne of Green Gables? And does anything from the end show up? So the way we're going to do that is we're going to turn this into what teachers often call a T chart. And all that means is we now have 4 different sections. We have a characters, a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is where those places were in the legend of Lancelot and Elaine. And now, there we go. You can see it better. Now we are going to see where they show up in Anne of Green Gables, chapter 28. And just so we can see it a little bit better, I'll circle these labels so we know what each section is talking about. So as we listen to chapter 28 in Anne, I think it's 28. Yeah. Once the story of Lancelot and Elaine comes in, watch and see if any of the characters show up, anything from the beginning, the middle, or the end. And we will talk about that and what you need to do with that at the end of the chapter. I'll probably pause it as we go through. At the end, I will give you the summary, and you will have to work a little bit more with this information in your notebook. So now that you are prepared, you will watch the next video where it actually reads to you chapter 28.